the state of Indian languages today, developments, challenges, and of course, how we can reimagine our future as multilingual, inclusive, and in every language that we have in India. Over the next 3 days, we hope to explore with you how policy, technology, and community can work together, how to shape a multilingual digital future. I would now like to invite Professor Deva Priyakumar, Dean R&D, to share the inaugural address.
Good morning, everyone. So first of all, thanks for having me, Vasu and other organizers. So it's a pleasure to be here. So actually, before I start, I just warn you, I just took over as Dean R&D, and I'm not used to speaking into this kind of audience. One more thing. So, when I go to conferences, especially in, universities, right? So usually, typically, there is a proper ceremony, inaugural ceremony, and so on. Typically, the vice chancellor or the deans, they come and speak. We sit and wonder why they are speaking, right? So I hope I don't give that kind of moment, but of course I cannot speak about languages and technologies, but I hope so. I fall somewhere in between. So first of all, thank you for coming to IIIT Hyderabad on behalf of the Institute. I'm very glad to invite you all here. I don't know how many of you are here for the first time, but I see some familiar faces. So welcome to the Institute. I hope you have a pleasant stay in the next 3 days, also intellectually productive and so on. So just a quick introduction about the Institute. IIIT Hyderabad is about 27 years old, and it started as a not-for-profit public-private institute. Right, so it's kept away from the government, but it's not owned by a trust or a family or a foundation where the policies and how the institute is run, by any of the outsiders in some sense, right? So IIIT was started as a research university where the focus was research from day one. And most of our undergrad students are involved in research, and they do research in many areas, including the language technologies. So about LTRC, I should say something about LTRC. When I joined IIIT Hyderabad about 17 years ago, I come from a science background, chemistry background specifically. And I had no idea what language technology was, right? But in the first few years, I learned that our LTRC, the Language Technology Research Center, is one of the flagship centers in the institute. Very well known in the country and has very good reputation worldwide, right? So at that time, Professor Sangal, Professor Deepthi, Vasu, and few others were leading this effort, and we are doing extremely well. Now, of course, we have new faces, and they are taking this to the next level. Okay, so but the last 5-6 years, I've been involved in like developing technologies for real life applications, for example, right? So we have something called a Technology Innovation Hub. We call it iHub Data. And I've been, leading that in terms of developing technologies for real-world applications. And during this process, I've learned quite a bit in terms of what technology could do and what kind of path we should take for this technology to be successful, right? So, if for the people, especially from academic background, we know that we do research, right? Some of you do cutting-edge research, right? But most of the time, it stops there. Maybe you get a very good publication, maybe you have a patent. And if very successful, there are other academic groups which kind of adopts this and then maybe improve this, take your code base, use this, and so on, right? But then it kind of stops there, okay? But what takes? What does it take to go to the next level, right? So what is the next level that we want to see this technology to be impacting lives, right? So what is found out is that, you want to connect to the community, right? Which kind of community? Every technology has its own, user base, right? Whether it's, if we take healthcare, we'll be happy if this technology is used at, at the large-scale public, public health level. And if it is languages, we would be happy to see, many people using this. And then the third part is, it gets amplified. How does it get amplified? When the policies support this, right? When you have these policies around these technologies, which kind of amplifies, the marketing, business, all these come, beyond these things, right? These three, I think, are the fundamental. I just, saw this concept note, and, I see that, many of you have, all of you here have come from different walks of life, specifically in these three areas. And why is language technologies important for our country? Of course, so many of you must have, noticed, now and then there is a discussion about languages, which language is better, which one we should all speak, which one we should all learn, right? So, but then, most of us do realize that every language has its own value, the culture that it comes with, the literature behind it, and so on, right? We all understand the importance, right? So, for me, right, for example, Bahu Bhasa, right? I was trying to Google just like 30 seconds ago what Bahu means, right? Bhasha, of course, is reasonably understand. I don't speak Hindi, I speak Telugu, Tamil, English, and so on. But, and then, the first hit I got was daughter-in-law. It doesn't make sense. And then the second hit says many, I hope that's right. It's just, the Google said that. So, all right, so anyway, so, but the point is this, right? So, what if there was a situation where each of us could transact or, talk to each other or, be with each other without having this barrier of languages, right? I feel very strongly of my language. You feel strongly of your language, right? We don't have to necessarily come to a common ground and say, oh, I want to choose this particular language and then do this. Of course, we all speak English. We want to communicate at this point. But maybe there will be a point. Maybe we are already reaching towards some point where each of us actually can transact, communicate with each other, seamlessly without much of a barrier, right? And this gap, right, from today to where we want to be, I think technology is the only solution, right? And this technology has to be in a way that people can use. If you can take any of the technologies in the past that has become successful, right? They have been successful not only because of the greatness of the technology, but also because the way it is adapted, why it was adopted by many people, because it's easy, and basically democratization, right? ChatGPT, we all know why. Because I don't need to know any AI, anything, right? I just open like a Google, just like how I open a Google website, I just open ChatGPT, type whatever I want and get the response, right? It is so popular because of the ease of use, right? I really hope that the discussions that you are going to have in the next 3 days and the work that has been already happening here and other places and the work that is going to happen beyond this also will help us move towards the point where, in terms of languages, we are barrierless, and the technology is going to enable that. With that, thank you very much for your kind attention. Pardon me if there are any. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Deva. I would now like to invite Professor Vasudeva Varma, head of the LTRC and PI of the OKI program, to share his opening remarks.
Good morning, and very warm welcome to all of you to IIIT Hyderabad and Bahu Bhasa. Initially, we named Bahu Bhasa, where we're conceptualizing it, we called it as a festival of languages, festival of Indian languages. It's not just that, it's also a festival of conversations. It's a festival of diversity. So this event cannot be a monologue. And in one sense, it must be a collective of narratives. And that's what we are hoping that we'll achieve in next 3 days. In next 3 days, hopefully, we'll think together and think aloud. And I would like to request each one of you and remind you that you are not just attendees. We are all active participants. And we are alive in each one of these conversations. So that's a very important thing I wanted to reiterate and I wanted to emphasize on this right in the beginning. But then this celebration that what we have, celebration of languages, celebrations of conversations, celebrations of diversity, it begins at a time of silent crisis. Somebody said, every crisis is a crisis of storytelling. And any crisis of this kind, during any crisis of this kind, we must ask a few fundamental questions. The first one, whose stories are being heard? Who has the loud mouth? Okay. Second is, who has the ability to narrate their own story? And the third one, and whom are we narrating these stories to? I want this particular aspect to be I want you to think about it and then keep it in your mind. I'll come back to it very soon. Just wanted to reiterate 3 fundamental questions. Whose stories are being heard? Who has the ability to narrate their stories? And whom are they narrating it to? Today, these questions are urgent. These questions require utmost attention. We have about 7,000 languages in the world that are spoken and signed. Yet, fewer than 500 languages have any meaningful digital presence. Just think about it. 7,000 languages and only 5,000 have any meaningful, we're not talking about significant, any meaningful digital presence. And more than that, 75% of the internet users, they use only 10 languages, just 10 languages. This is a very striking and very disturbing fact. So what we are really witnessing today is the silent erosion of entire knowledge traditions, cultural wisdom, and unique ways of seeing the world. Each one of us, from our own communities, from our own cultures, from our languages, we are taught to see the world in our unique way. Understanding the world in a unique way and interpreting the world in a unique way. But today, what we are looking at is erosion of this entire process, the richness and the diversity with which we are able to interpret the world and add value to our interactions. And that's where initiatives like this, open knowledge initiatives, have a long way to go and a lot of burden to carry. We know both empirically and intuitively that open knowledge played a huge role in human progress. There is no doubt about it. More importantly, it builds certain human values like trust. If you compare that with closed knowledge, you know that there is a whole lot of ways in which we interpret the world, interact with the world is restricted. Closed knowledge always creates hierarchies, creates division, and then creates barriers for entry. However, The open knowledge always played a key role in uplifting the human development, and it helped, served everybody equally. So that's an important element that we wanted to keep in mind. And one aspect that I wanted to reiterate is whether it is through Bahu Bhasa or any other conversation that are going to happen to enhance the presence of open knowledge in the knowledge ecosystem and also in the learning and knowledge cycle that is pretty much required in order to progress for all of us in a right direction. So that is the purpose that we are aiming at, and Bahu Bhasa is going to play some role, a key role in achieving that purpose. So this gathering, I'm hoping, would elevate these conversations and to connect with our communities. And then again, focus on the 3 pillars that we stated in initial communication to all of you. Including policy, including inclusion, and including technology. I want to focus on the last pillar, the technology, as that's the one that I'm most familiar with. It looks like technology has conquered the language fully and brutally. Today's AI models, can generate beautiful, very apt language for any purpose. So it seems that we all can be a Shakespeare, a Kalidasa, or a Shashi Tharoor with just one prompt. And this kind of created 2 dominant and frankly submissive narratives. First narrative is that of AI boomer view. AI is so powerful and it's so important and it's progressing so fast that humanity is going to be much better. They're going to be such a great world. Healthcare for everybody, education for everybody. It's going to serve the humanity and make us all superhumans. You cannot escape it. So you just need to be submissive. Then there's a second narrative, that is the AI doomers view. AI is so powerful, it is progressing so fast, it is stealing away our jobs, and we will have nothing to do, and our intellectual, our physical abilities are going to diminish. We are going to be just slaves. You cannot escape it. If you notice both these narratives, one thing that is very striking is both of them have a common thread, right? You cannot escape, you have to be submissive and so on. In fact, both these narratives originate and travel for a long time together, only towards the end they separate. They differ only at the end, right? I would like to offer an alternate narrative here. Yes, AI is developing very fast, but human adaptation is very slow. Our wisdom, our cultural depth is not a problem to be solved or can be solved by a machine. But in fact, our culture, our language, our wisdom is the source code that the machines need. I would like to kind of narrate a story, maybe an example. In order to understand this particular debate I just mentioned, right, we will look at something that is very old. In Indian philosophy, or rather in Indian ways of understanding language, Indian theories of meaning, they interpret language to have two fundamental elements: form and the meaning, vak and artha. So the vak is the form or the word or the syntax, and then artha is the meaning, the concept, and the intent. Right? So this is something that that we intuitively know if you are trained in Indian languages and Indian cultures. But then, coming to the current world, where the hypothesis is that in today's LLMs, AI models, these models master the form, they masters the vak, and that artha, the meaning, is only derived. It is an emergent property rather than something that comes originally to the models. So vak, or the form, is on which the models are trained, whereas the meaning is an emergent element of that. Some 1500 years ago, Kalidasa, I think when he's coming up, when he's starting his magnum opus, Raghuvamsam, he started with this, gem of starting parts. Many of you know, Vakartha viva sampraktau vakartha pratipattaye jagata pitarau vande parvati parameshwarau. So I bow to Parvati and Shiva, who are inseparably joined, sampraktau, like a word and its meaning. I think no better example that actually talks about unity, inseparable bonding, than a upamana or an example of this kind, vak artha, right? Word and the meaning, how they can be. But this is an ideal word. Form and meaning are one, they're indivisible, they're divine reality. So this, in a way, supports that emergent theory that I was talking about. If you perfectly master the vak, you must, by definition, get the artha, right? So that is what these LLMs are based on. But then, philosopher Bhartrhari would say no to it. He argued for something called spota theory. So the meaning or the artha is the primary thing, not the form. It's the single kind of burst of comprehension that occurs in your mind before you utter the word. So that's the spota theory, right? In fact, the words or the vak are just the imperfect unfolding of that meaning. Okay? So in one sense, it also shows out that the language models that what we have is just the stochastic parrot is the kind of the metaphor that we use for these LLMs, right? It's a master of vak, but zero access to the spota or the cause. So who is right? Bhartrhari or Kalidasa, or what interpretation, one interpretation of this. So let's again test it with some kind of a bug report one can build from this interpretation of this. And I wanted to bring out the word play that also exists in this beautiful kind of piece of literature. Okay? There's a word play on Kalidasa's own verse. So the form, the vak, says Parvati Parameshwarau, right? So Parvati Parameshwara is essentially means both Parvati and Shiva, the ideal, inseparable divine couple. But then there's somebody, a naughty scholar, who reinterpreted this and reparsed the exact same walk, Parvati Parameshwarao, as something like Parvati Pa Rameshwarao. Okay? So that is essentially the master of Parvati and the lord of Rama, which is Vishnu. So from Parvati Parameshwarao to Vishnu and Shiva combination, you see the difference. Raghuvamsham, supposed to be a tribute to Vishnu's this one, and then invoking Shiva's, then later bringing in the duality and so on. It has this powerful interplay and so on, right? So why did I bring in that example here? I wanted to say something that is very important about the narratives that I was talking about, the important questions that we wanted to say. Why did this interpretation come to me, who is least exposed to the Indian theories of meaning, at least in the last 30 years? Is because some scholars, Western scholars, came to India, spent time, studied these closed knowledge, translated it, and made it as open knowledge for the entire world. And their work enriched humanity, and ironically, it created the data set that now feeds all these powerful AI models. Had we kept this such a great, rich knowledge closed, and no one interpreted it, no one actually translated it, no one made it accessible to the general world, many of us, this generation, next generation, and generations forward would not have had a glimpse of this, towards this richness. So the lesson is clear. If we don't make our own cultural and linguistic nuances open and accessible, and one of the two things will happen. First is we will lose it forever. And then the second, someone else will decide how to tell our story. So let us actually be the ones to share our wisdom. Let us protect our linguistic heritage by making it open and making it accessible and proud. So let us decide to tell our own story. And to my mind, this is the work of Bahu Bhasa. This is the purpose of this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Vasu. I would now like to invite Tanveer Hassan from the OKI team to share opening remarks.
Namaskara. What's a good conference without some controversy, right? So let me dig very directly into something that might have been troubling all of you. This is not bhasha. I want to make it clear right in front. This is bhasa. Why did we do this? Do we have strong pedagogical references? Do we have a lot of research to support this claim? Probably not. But we are framing it this way because bhasha has a meaning. It has a political tenor to it. Bhasa is a concept that we want to advocate for all the languages that are important to us but are not legally recognized, that don't have the stamp of approval, that don't have authority provided to it. We want to speak for all of those languages. And hence, it's not a spelling mistake that you see there, but it is very intentional. So it is Bahu Bhasa. Like there is Desh and Des, like there is Bhasha and there is Bhasa. So this is the first thing that I wanted to put in front of you. The second thing, I am the culprit for something that Professor Vasu mentioned, that why is this not a festival? So initially when we had imagined this, and this has been a dream that the team has been dreaming for about 1.5 years, and finally we had to come to IIIT and to work with Professor Vasu to make it happen. So why is this no longer Indian Language Festival? Firstly, I thought it was unfair to call something that is so Indian language with an English term and then make it Indian Language Festival. So it just sounded very crazy in our heads. So we said we are not doing Indian Language Festival. And more importantly, and this is something that I want all of your intellectual space to get into is, why are festivals always so romantic? Why should an Indian language festival be about song, music, shairis? I don't have anything against it. But I also wanted to move away from the celebratory part of it and to infuse a little bit of criticality into it and say, if everything is so nice in our languages, then why is it that we don't show up? If we have the greatest of the poets, if we have the greatest of the rhythm, if we have the greatest of the speakers, if my language is the best, whether it's according to UNESCO or not is another question, why don't we show up? Why don't we have impact that translates to something else other than me saying, oh, my grandmother gave me lovely stories. Oh, my grandfather and I have lovely memories of the language. So we wanted this event to be critical of those things, of saying that, yes, this is my language and I'm very, very proud of it. I would like to do everything that I can, but I would also want to ask questions around it. I want to ask myself in that place of question, and I would also want to ask everybody else who's here those questions. So this was the explanatory part. If I were to leave you with a couple of things, I'm sure there are things that will work and that will not work. The lifts will be crowded, the food will be a little spicy, the water might be a little too sweet or little too salty. Please bear with us for all of that, right? Please give us your grace, give us your love, and we're doing this for the first time. We might not get everything right. We might answer your phone calls only after the second ring or the third ring, but we'll try our best. But if I were to leave with you with three questions or three registers of importance, these are the ones. I want to leave all of you with the register of hope. We've all done a lot for languages, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting here, right? You did not get up today and decide that you're going to be a linguist or you're going to be a language warrior or a language enthusiast. That's not why you're here, right? You've done this. You've done this many, many times. But we did it in a very, very dark atmosphere. By dark, I don't want to invoke negativity. I'm saying it wasn't clear why we were doing this. It wasn't very clear as to where this was leading. The people around you here are those beacons of hope, that many people do this, and they all do this with the understanding or with the aim of doing it for the language. So hope is the first emotion, the first register that I want to leave all of you with. The second register is validation. It usually does not come across when you're doing your work that it needs to be validated by somebody else. It's only when you're writing a grant application or a PhD thesis or in whatever form that you're working with, that validation is important. And people who work with languages, with people, with community, what are the sources of validation? Who is going to come and say that you have done great work? This is the community that is going to say that the work that you have done matters. There is a lot of validation in this room. For every time that somebody asked you, what is this about, what is this thing that you do for Telugu, or what is this thing that you're doing for Ho, or Wancho, or for Idumishimi? At that point, maybe you did not have an answer. But this group of people, that's the validation, right? And the last register that I want to leave all of you with is assertion. This is a little controversial again, but why do I want us to be aware of assertion? Because, like Professor Vasu very rightly mentioned, technology is conquering languages. Whether I like it or not is secondary. It does, right? So assertion of linguistic identity, linguistic knowledge is not simply about power. It's also about saying that we are the custodians. We are the ones that make things happen. The catalyst of the language is no longer the scriptures or the works. It is people. So tomorrow when the AI will come, or tomorrow something else will come, where does it stand? How are we going to engage with it? That assertion of saying that I would like to have the agency, I would like to be the one who decides, who contributes, who shapes some of these narratives, is what I want to leave all of you with. Absolutely the last thing, and then I'll stay silent and we should invite our keynote, is I'm just going to read out the languages that are participating here. Not people, languages, the languages that are in the room. And if you come across a language that you have probably heard for the first time, or you usually don't hear, then please know that you're already in very, very good company, right? I'm just going to read out the name of the languages that are here in this room. Ahirani, Angika, Assamese, Bareli, Bangla, Bhili, Bhilori, Bhilali, Chhattisgarhi, English, Gadwali, Gondi, Gujarati, Hindi, Ho, Idumishmi, Kannada, Kashmiri, Khasi, Kolami, Konkani, Korku, Koya, Malayalam, Marathi, Mundari, Pavari, Punjabi, Rathavi, Sanskrit, Santali, Tamil, Telugu, Tudu, Urdu, Wancho, Warli, Arebhase. These are the languages that are here. So just with that thought, just with that feeling, welcome to Bahu Bhasa. May we all have good conversations, interesting conversations, and difficult conversations. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for that, Tanveer. We will now move on to our first keynote address for today, which is on language policy and infrastructures for digital societies. I will introduce our keynote speaker. Vadrevu Chinaveerabhadrudu is a retired member of the Indian Administrative Service. He rendered exceptional service for 3.5 decades in universalizing education among STs, in formulating and implementing tribal sub-plans, and spearheaded educational reforms in Andhra Pradesh. He authored and translated 73 titles and received the Sahitya Academy Award for his translation of Ignited Minds by Dr. Kalam. He's also an amateur watercolorist. So I would like to invite Chinaveerabhadrudu Garu up on stage.
Yeah, good morning, friends. Okay. Yeah, good morning. Thank you for inviting me. I think I was not really clear when Pavan Santosh wanted me to be here. So he had he arranged a telecon and we discussed. Then broadly, then he has shared some info about this initiative, and then I try to understand. Maybe I think there are three aspects of of me. One is that I worked for more than 3.5 decades in tribal areas and with tribals, and especially on tribal education. Maybe that's one reason. And the other, I also worked in the education department. I was Commissioner of School Education for some time in Andhra Pradesh, where some important educational reforms were initiated. That was the past, both these things. And of course, the active part of my present story is that I'm a writer and I'm an active practitioner. I'm an active practitioner of not just writing. I can call myself an open education resource. Because, you know, for the last 1 year, I have wrote a lot of articles in Telugu for a period of more than a decade. And then I started compiling all these articles. I wrote on different areas, like ranging from films to philosophy. And I have been an active translator also. So what I have done, I have learned the desktop print making, and I learned Photoshop, and now I prepare my own books and I make the soft copies, and I have making them available at free of cost on my blog. And so far I made around 30 books available on my blog. And you know what, even people who are writers themselves, who are scholars, one complaint they always make to me is that it is very difficult to read a PDF. Why don't you get the books printed? And it's always easy for us to handle a book. So whenever I listen to these type of remarks, I feel that, you know, as if the whole society is still in 17th or 18th centuries, or maybe still they are in the times of Gutenberg. I think we have moved from the times of Gutenberg to Zuckerberg. This is the fact that people have to realize. And in fact, we are also, even Zuckerberg himself is trying to transcend himself, his own model. You must have seen Facebook, what kind of recent transformation that the Facebook is undergoing. So this is one thing. Then of course, I also deliver on every Friday evening at 7 p.m. I do a Facebook live talk wherein in the last 1 year, I realized, I've been an active Facebook user. I run a blog, and I found that, among the Telugu blogs, I don't know how many Telugu blogs you must have seen. I think I can say my blog is an exceptional blog because I have, in the last 5 years, I have received a hits of 500,000 hits. 5 lakh hits for a Telugu blog is not a small thing. And that much resource I made available, and I realized that I have created a community around my resource, not around me, about my resource, about the things I am talking about the knowledge that I am sharing. And of course, all the members of either my Facebook community or my blog viewers or the listeners of my Facebook talks, I believe all of us are co-learners. We are active co-learners. We are all, in fact, it's a cooperative learning because of their feedback only, because they have been giving me the feedback in the form of comments, maybe in the form of personal feedback whenever we meet. Most of us meet regularly. So I should say that even though the media like Facebook and blog are not really interactive in the sense that these interactions happen at a slower pace rather than what happens virtually in real time, still I consider that as a collective learning and cooperative learning. Maybe these are the factors that must have prompted Mr. Pavan to call me here. Friends, I would like to I didn't bring any presentation because I don't believe in presentations. We are a community where we are very much comfortable in, talking face to face, and of course, whatever that I speak now, I can also make it into the gist can be made available. Anyway, I would post a post on my blog immediately. So I would like to divide my presentation into 3 parts. The part 1 is about the open education, the open education revolution. The second is about the open education in languages. The third is, of course, the policy initiatives or the policy requirements that we need to look into at this particular juncture. Open education is something, I need not tell you these things again, but let me recapitulate what we are saying when we talk about open education. There is one beautiful book. This is edited by Toru Liyoshi, Opening Up Education, the Collective Advancement of Education Through Open Technology, Open Content and Open Knowledge. This is the title. A beautiful book edited by 2 people. Among the 2, one is Mr. Vijay Kumar, must be an Indian. So the word they have used is, they are saying that the open education is a perfect storm. This is what they said. It's a perfect storm. The whole world is now caught by, or maybe caught under or caught in the web of a perfect storm. The perfect storm is happening. The problem is I have seen both the extremes. That's the problem. On the one side of it, I am seeing the perfect storm happening. Maybe in my whatever possible for me, in smaller way, I am also participating in this storm. On the other side of the story, I find the government, the schools still happening, still taking place, learning and education taking place, maybe in terms that can be explained only in 18th or 19th century vocabulary, not even in 20th century vocabulary. That's the problem. The gap now is very, very large, so large. The largeness is such that it is difficult even for us to comprehend how large it is. Because, till 20th century, education was seen as a factory model product. Where education can be produced, it can be packed, it can be stored, it can be sold in a market, you can purchase it, you can carry home, you can give it to your child, and maybe this product can be shared among people. This is how, even in the West till early 20th, maybe middle of the 20th century, education was seen mostly as a factory product. It was only after the globalization has taken place, maybe late post 80s, and especially after the advent of 21st century, people are now seeing education as something that is not produced, but something created. No, now there is no factory model of education. Even if you say that, you know, I have some product of education, I have a package of education, I have, you know, cartons of education or box of education, that education is of no use for anybody, because that is what is happening. You know, all our textbooks, in fact, all our teachers, the teachers are salesmen of education today, are actually they are selling the expired product, the dated product, in fact, which has turned poisonous in this process. Because that education which is now taking place in our schools, is not the education that is created. It is the education that is produced some 30 or 40 or 100 years back. You know, I don't know if any one of you have seen the 10th class physics textbook or science textbook or even the social studies textbook, you will be appalled to find what is written there, what is being taught in the schools now. In the name of science, everybody knows in the name of science what is being taught in the schools now. The history of science is being taught in the schools. It is not the science which is taught in the schools, because the knowledge is not created. You know, the biggest challenge that I had to face in my life as somebody who is interested in education was, I mean, God has given me this greatest task in my life. I was supposed to handle the schools and education in the times of COVID pandemic, which has never happened maybe in the history of India. We might have seen epidemics, but this kind of mass education project, mass education program, where, you know, under my jurisdiction, some 65,000 schools were running, and some, you know, lakhs of students were taking education, and all the schools were closed because of pandemic. And how do you run education was the question. So then everybody was arguing against pandemic, and then I said, let us see an opportunity here, because for centuries, educational thinkers and philosophers have been arguing about two things. One is about schools without walls. The other thing was, you know, education that takes place outside the walls, outside the school, and lifelong learning. I said COVID has provided as an opportunity, a valuable opportunity, to understand how we can practice this education with the schools without walls and lifelong learning. And precisely this is the time, this is the opportunity, this is a context where we have to think about open education. Now, open education, these people, these two people who have brought out this volume, education, opening of education, they are talking with the reference to universities. They were actually centering their whole discussion around three aspects. One is around technology, the other is around content, and the third is about knowledge. And all three are interrelated, because sheer making available, sheer technology does not get itself translated into content, nor making large chunks of content, tons of content available just because it is in digitized form. We can't say that we have made an open education resource available. It is the same case, like, you know, earlier we made huge libraries where knowledge is stored in the form of books available. Now we are making huge libraries where knowledge is stored in the form of, soft data. That doesn't really make our society into a knowledge society unless we make this content really get translated into knowledge. How do you make this content translate into knowledge? That's the question. And the problem with countries like India, which are very populous, and where almost earlier it was the gap in literacy, now it is the gap in the digital literacy. Earlier, the gap in literacy made the society divided into the Pandita and the Pamara sections of the society. Now it has made the society computer Pandita and computer Pamara. So the gap between the Pandita Pamaras till 21st century, the extent of gap was not that disastrous, was not that terrifying, compared to the gap that is now existing between the computer pandita and computer pamara. And in fact, the problem is the moment a computer pamara becomes a little bit computer pandita, how he will become a little bit computer pandita? By buying a smartphone, by accessing an internet connection, and then subscribing to Instagram or Facebook. Then what will he become? He is becoming a troller. That is the first qualification he is getting into. I mean, the whole resources, the infrastructure, whatever is the content, whatever is now, in fact, whatever content is now made available, you see WhatsApp, what they do, they take this content partially, alter it, make it suitable, modify it, and then they will try to use it for their petty political advantages. So this is a much more complicated, much more risky situation. In fact, had it not been, I mean, had the digital revolution had not taken place, maybe we would have remained in two different detachable worlds, maybe interacting in few fora, like, you know, in the polling booth, or maybe in the assembly, or maybe in the newspaper. But now it is so ubiquitous that we are interacting every day with everybody. So in this situation, in this context, how do we make the content, the vast amount of content that is made available, or the content that we are making available, is really being used in the proper way and for proper purposes? This is one very important question. And the problem is, you know, earlier, that was when, you know, I have been participating in these discussions for the last 25 years. And when in the advent of 21st century, we were told that the new 21st century skills, there is a total new set of skills are going to matter, which are actually, they said, 3 skills, that is creativity, communication, and collaboration. Even now, they stand to be the pillars for this new revolution, that is the open education revolution, because here education has to be created. It cannot be created in silos or in isolation. It has to be created in collaboration, and then it's an act of communication. So the problem is, in this Web 2.0, when the learning has become, now we are undergoing the learning 2.0 phase of learning, we have to be active, cooperative learners. And this learning it is taking place. The problem is, it is taking place. It is taking place across the world, across the languages, across the city, across various communities. But the problem is, most of the times we are finding that this is not education. We are somehow writing it off, saying that this is entertainment, or this is extracurricular, or this is not really connected to your education. This is what we are thinking, which is wrong. So one professor wrote somewhere that, you know, when she asked somebody, what is the size of your university? He said, what do you think would be the size of my university enrollment? Then she said, it must be around 40,000 students. He said, no, 40,000 students as per the enrollment, but the size of our university is more than 2.5 lakh, because he said all these 40,000 students that come to the university are bringing social networking, which is as large as 2.5 lakh children. So the learning is now taking place not only in the classroom, not only on the written page, not only on the platform of any social media. It is also taking form simultaneously within the various social network groups. And most of it happens informally, most of it happens invisibly. The point is, how do you make it visible? So one definition that somebody has defined open education as you know, education where open education is something where the educational resources are made visible, the challenges are addressed, the opportunities are seized, and the potential synergies are realized. This is what is to happen. And when we come to the open educational languages, especially with reference to Indian languages, I think Indian languages are recently means some 6 months back, in Mumbai, Somaya Vidya Vihar, there is one Professor Devi, you must have heard about him. He has done a lot of work in Indian languages. they have organized a workshop. They organized a workshop in what to be done about Marathi. That was their primary concern. In order to make Marathi more vibrant, they have identified some important classics from the West, and they wanted to take up translation of around 28 books. So in that workshop, they have organized the inaugural session as an exchange session between the languages in India which have now been recognized as classical languages. I think there are around 11 or so classical languages in India, and Telugu is also one of the classical languages. And when I have attended this conference as a representative of Telugu language, then for the first time, I have been an active student of the Indian literatures in various languages. I read translations of the great books from my sister Indian languages, but first time a lot of insights have dawned on me, because then I realized that all Indian languages, whether they are tribal languages or those languages which are scheduled in Constitution of India or non-scheduled, but all languages are undergoing a crisis today. Especially with reference to the languages which have attained the classical status, like Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and now Bengali, and these languages have attained the classical status, Assami. The problem with these languages, all these languages have, if I take the case of Telugu, I can easily map the journey of Telugu into 3 phases. The phase number 1, that was till 10th century. Maybe Telugu must have, we don't know what was the proto-form of Telugu. The linguists say that it's a Proto-Dravidian language, but nobody knows what is that Proto-Dravidian language. But we had some, we don't know, from antiquity, from times immemorial, this language vocabulary has somehow come into the interaction of the people, and by 5th century of Common Era, Telugu was recognized by the local rulers as an important language for using in the inscriptions, which means the Telugu was identified. Telugu, this happens in the case of Kannada, it happens in the Tamil a little bit. Tamil had much ancient history. Odia, these are sister languages which can share the same concern. These languages were used by the government, by the kings, the local rulers, as a governance language. See, laying an inscription in local language is not a small step. In fact, today, I worked in government for more than 3 decades, and I hardly come across a government officer who is capable of writing a government order in Telugu. Forget about, laying inscriptions, stone inscriptions. So 1,000 and 1,500 years back, people were installing stone inscriptions in Telugu. Is not something, a small thing. We have to see from that angle of the times. And this, by 10th or 11th century of Common Era, those kings who have come into power by using Telugu for their inscriptions, have realized the potential of Telugu, and then they have encouraged the poets, and for the last 1,000 years, till 20th century, these poets, a battery of poets, have developed Telugu into a very, very prestigious, competent, energetic, literary language. Today, I can rate Telugu as one of the top 10 literary languages in the world. It can rank among Greek, Latin, Chinese, any great major, Arabic, any great major literary languages. And when the Telugu, the first book in Telugu has come, some of the languages like, Italian, English, Japanese, they were not even in their initial phase of their development. But if you see, these languages which have come late, they have fast become global languages. So there is one English linguist called David Crystal. He is the first person to differentiate between the concept of an international language and a global language. So he wrote a book called English as Global Language. In that he says, if there are language speakers spread over the entire world among various countries, you will call it an international language. But it becomes a global language when people across countries start interacting in that particular language. So if you say that Telugu is an international language because there are Telugu people in more than 150 countries, but Telugu cannot be called a global language because nobody learns Telugu even for literary purpose. Forget about other purposes. People learn Tamil to read Sangam literature, but it's not the case with Telugu. But in case of Japanese, in case of Chinese, in case of Korean, people learn these languages because a lot of manufacturing happens in those languages. And of course, English and other Spanish and those languages people learn because a lot of technological and scientific innovation is happening in these languages. So the problem is now, in 21st century, now we are at the crossroads. The problem is, do you say that Telugu is going to die, or Tamil is going to die, or Kannada is going to die? This is one argument that the political people and language activists seriously talk about. I don't think any one of these major Indian languages is going to die. But they are dying. In one way they are dying, but they don't die. They don't die in the sense that they will continue to remain as cinema languages. They will continue to remain as TV languages. They will continue to remain as languages of hate speech. They will remain as languages of trolling. They will remain as languages of killing each other. But they have died as languages of vibrant literature. They have died as languages of serious scientific discourse. I mean, I have not seen one Telugu book in this entire 125 years of modern era. If we say the modern era in Telugu has started in 1900, I have not seen one Telugu book where the whole world is thronging to get the book translated to their languages. It's not happening because the Telugu people have never considered that very important. They think Telugu is good for, their home discussion, sharing their emotions at home, sharing their anger in the street, and sharing their hate in the social media. This is what is happening now. So in this context, to talk about tribal languages is a much greater story of, it's a greater sad story because these tribal languages, especially there are sister tribal languages for Telugu, languages like Gondi, Parji, Kolami, Koya. These languages are called the Middle Dravidian family. All these languages were at par 1500 years back, maybe by 5th century Common Era. Koya, Telugu and Gondi were at the same level. What made Telugu progress at great strides in 15 centuries to rank at par with the greatest classical language of the world? I am an avid and active reader of, I read Greek literature, I read Chinese literature, I read Arabic literature, I read, Virgil, Homer, Dante, and I am telling you that Telugu as a literary language, as a poetic language, as Kavya Bhasha, Telugu Kavya Bhasha is much more greater, stronger, richer than any one of these languages. But why the tribal language remained at the same state of affairs? So, one gentleman, when to differentiate between the difference between dialect and language, he said that a language is a dialect with an army behind it. Okay, this is a beautiful definition. But now this is no longer valid in 21st century. Now I would say a dialect or a bhasa can become bhasha if there is a battery of who? Translators, learners, active practitioners, especially digital practitioners are behind the language. If the language, Telugu was able to catch the opportunity 1000 years back to become an active literary language. But now it is falling behind in catching the opportunity to become an active global language, because the Telugu practitioners are not believing that they can make their language into an active global language. It is possible. See, people are now seeing Korean movies. Why? Because the filmmakers in Korea thought that their film films can be seen by the whole world. If Telugu writers or Tamil writers or any one of the tribe, when the National Book Trust has organized a workshop in translating some Gondi texts into Telugu and Telugu texts into Gondi in Adilabad. They invited me for giving the inaugural address, and I shared all my concerns. I said when Santali can become a national language and when civil service exams are happening in Santali, why not in Gondi, where the Gonds are in population equal to Santals? This was my concern I made in that conference, and after coming out, one tribal boy came to me and he said, and he put his mic before me and he said, "Sir, we are running Jangubai channel in Gondi and give us your comments here." I was thrilled because those people found the opportunity. Running, see, they missed the opportunity in making Gondi a literary language. They missed the opportunity in making Gondi into equal to a poetic language of Telugu. But now they caught the opportunity of making Gondi into a media language. He brought the mic and said, I said, do you run this? Yes, sir. How many listeners are there? All our Gonds listen to this. All our Kolams listen to this. Jangubai. Jangubai is the goddess of Gonds. He said, all these people are listening to us. I was really happy. So this is how we can make the opportunity available. We can rise to the opportunity. And coming to the policies, as I told, government is far, far backward in understanding that such a revolution is taking place. I don't know, is there any one government officer in this group? Or is there any policy maker in this group? Or there is any, in fact, whenever you organize this conference, please invite the directors of SCERT, if not anybody else. Because those are the NCERT, those are the people who formulate textbooks. Those are the people who draft curriculum. They should be aware about what is happening across the world. I mean, when I read the kind of, when I read the United Nations Charter on open knowledge, in fact, the first impression of me was, in fact, I was terrified. What is this? Where is the world is heading and where are we? And how can we forget about tribals, the rural Telugu population, the rural Telugu schools. I went to one high school after COVID when the schools were opened. And in fact, I told the teachers and the headmasters and the district education officers not to pressurize the children to complete the syllabus. First do the warming up because they're coming to schools after a long, 1.5 year break. Let them, they must have forgotten all that, whatever they have learned. Give them some warming up. And in spite of all my circulars, all my pravachanams, what happened when I went to a school, when I went to a Jilla Parishad High School, when I went to class 10, then it was a physics class, and then when I opened the notebooks, I find that the teacher was teaching lesson 1, that was Kanti, light. I was shocked. I said, the schools were opened only yesterday, and how dare you start this subject? This is a subject syllabus we have to complete because the exams are going to happen in March. So, under these circumstances, how do you make governments aware? When curricular reforms were thought about, people were suggesting that in each textbook there will be some units. Generally, there will be some 10 units. So one educationist suggested some time back, I was talking about 30 years back, he suggested that why don't you make one chapter exclusively for self-learning? This is what he said. Now I say, why don't we make at least one lesson in each textbook for each class for open education? Let the children, let the teachers, let the schools, let them become into active learning communities. Let them practice that particular paper into an open education paper. And I would suggest that the first policy initiative that you can demand from the government is in the examinations, make at least one paper, not as a qualifying paper, but at least one compulsory. Each child has to attend to that paper as one paper, where the child will have to answer that paper based on her own open educational practice. No teacher will teach it. He has to somehow learn it and come and attend to that paper. Let the marks in that paper be not counted for qualifying the examination, but let each child compulsorily attend to that. So making one chapter in each textbook for each class exclusively for open education, and introducing, at least in the higher classes, maybe from class 8th onwards, and of course up to postgraduate education, where you will make one paper compulsory for open education resource. Thank you very much. I think there is some time allowed for interaction, for any questions. I'm here to interact with you, not just questions and answers. Don't think that I have answers with me. For interaction.
Sir, you said one thing that in case of Telugu literature, there is a very less encouragement in making the maybe digitization or whatever. What could be the reason? Because in some other languages, I can say, for example, Odia languages, there is a project in Odisha where they are very well taken care as a conversion of the rare books to convert into digitization and put it in a website so that the whole world can see the content of in a soft copy manner. Even with the help of OCR also, it can be searchable. So why can't such initiatives are not encouraged?
In which form the material is made available on net, whether in the form of a PDF?
PDF.
No, that's the problem. I would give a comparison of Tamil and Telugu. Okay, sometime back, some 5 years back, I was on a visit to Tamil Nadu as an election observer. Okay, I do not know. I can't read. I can't differentiate between the ka and cha in Tamil script. I don't know Tamil script. But I wrote articles. I have brought out a book about Tamil poetry. It's an authentic book because wherever I have gone, I was given a liaison officer at that time. Now I don't require a liaison officer also, because with Google Lens you can get the text translated immediately. I don't need even somebody to tell me what is there on that board. So somebody was there and I was asking him what is the in every Tamil temple you will find the Tamil poetry written on the walls. So I was asking which poet, which poem. He was saying this is a poem by Appar. Immediately what was the first sentence? He was telling me the first sentence. Then I was going to my net and I was typing the first sentence, and a whole literature, whole poetry by Appar was available in referable, decipherable, retrievable manner. It's not PDF. In Telugu also, we have all Telugu literature digitized, and our people, our understanding of digitization among Telugus is that the moment you put, this is what happens. Have you seen the Digital Library of India books, the DLI project books? I think Purnima must have had a very bad experience with these books. If you go and see those Digital Library India books, you will find horrible scanning, papers missing from the text. You feel as if you are reading those books is actually a convulsion project. You will be convulsing because you don't know what to do. Suddenly 2 pages will be missing. For us, digitization means scanning, loading and dumping the data on net, which is not digitization. Digitization in the analog form is not digitization. Digitization in the digital form, where you will be able to, if you type one sentence, one word, it should be searchable. It should be retrievable. So in Tamil Nadu, I was able to get all this information just through my net. In Andhra Pradesh, I went to a place called Srikakulam in Krishna district, where I was told that a 14th century poet wrote a book. Then I tried hard to find that book on net. It was not available. Telugu people, I tell you, sir, Telugu ranks among, as per the ethnologue.com, we are the 17th language in the world. This is the 5th largest language in the country. This is the largest spoken language in the South India. And this is the poorest language as far as digitization is concerned. Because our people don't understand. There are people who do a lot of scanning. I feel it's all labor which is going in vain. That's my point.
So you mean to say it should be translated and made searchable?
Not just translated, it should be searchable.
Yeah, searchable is there. OCR they will definitely run.
Not just, you should make it into Unicode friendly. And suppose I type, concordance should be available. Suppose I am reading Tikkana's poetry. I want to find out where Tikkana is a major poet in Telugu. He translated 15 books of Mahabharata into Telugu. Such a great poet. A large chunk of literature was made available by him. So I wanted to know wherever Tikkana used the word, let us say dharma. I want to have an immediate index of the word dharma used by Tikkana. I type it in Telugu. I cannot get it because all this material is available in the analog form, in the PDF form. Unless you put it in the Unicode, and this is what the Tamilians have done. You see Project Madurai. If you go to Project Madurai website, you find all the Tamil literature available there. Why Tamil, sir? Between 6th to 8th centuries common era in China, Tang dynasty ruled China, and that is considered as the golden age of Chinese poetry. And it is said that around 50,000 poems were written during the Tang dynasty time. You go and Google it saying that please show me the Tang dynasty poetry, and you will find all 50,000 poems, left hand Chinese, right hand English. I tell you one more interesting case. I have translated, I have brought out a book on Chinese poetry, and in translating that poetry, there is a particular, there are 19 Han poems, a 2nd century Chinese text called 19 Han poems. The problem is I have some 5-6 English translations available with me, but no two translators agree with each other. Their interpretations differ. Somehow I translated, I wanted to verify who will tell me about Chinese poetry, that to 2nd century Chinese poetry. Then I have taken the Chinese text from the net, I have gone by each character, and I verified my translation. Can you do it for Telugu? Not possible. Can you do it for Oriya? Not possible, because I heard your Oriya speaker talking on the day about Oriya. And while this is the case, now because of this awareness, now these interstate, inter-language disparities are now cropping up. Say in Odisha, people are now fighting against the mainstream Oriya versus Sambalpuri. In Telugu, there is a fight between the coastal Telugu and the Telangana Telugu. So how do we address these issues? These are issues. This can be sorted out only by a greater community of active language practitioners. That is what is required. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chinaveerabhadrudu, for that keynote address. I'm sure these questions will come up throughout the day as we continue our conversations. Before we break for tea, I would just like to take 5 minutes to just share some housekeeping announcements very quickly. Firstly, of course, we're here for 3 days, so I would definitely urge you to have conversations. Please approach the speakers. Please meet, please speak outside of the auditorium as well. We're on a bit of a tight schedule. As you can see, it's a packed schedule, and we also have the space for a limited amount of time. So I would also request that we all work together to make sure that we stay on schedule. The event has a friendly space policy, so please ensure that you have read the same. Do reach out to us if you have any questions, concerns. Details on the Wi-Fi will be shared. I think they've already been put up. It's already up here as well. Lunch will be organized on the 1st floor in the admin lounge downstairs. Tea will be served right outside the hall. We have Etherpad notes for every day. This link will be shared. It will be put up on the screen. Please use it to share your thoughts, questions, comments. We may not be able to take all questions in every session, so please make sure that you put those questions there, and we will try to pick it up in subsequent conversations. The event is being photographed, video recorded, and selected sessions are being live streamed. You may use the red lanyard in case you do not wish to be recorded or photographed. The edited media content from this event will be shared on Wikimedia Commons and IIIT's social media handles. Apart from that, there are restrooms at the end of the corridor in each floor in this building. Water filters are also available outside. The campus is a litter-free zone, so if you're carrying plastic bottles, disposable cups, etc., please make sure that you dispose them carefully. Yes, that's it. So we can break for tea now, and okay, we can break for tea now, and let's come back at 11:15 for our next session. Thank you so much.